Good evening and welcome to my presentation on my dissertation, which is Identifying Key Drivers of Closures in the Multi-Channel Era of Banking in England and Wales. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the SLA for inviting me to present my dissertation tonight, and although I can't be with you in person, I'm thrilled to share my work with you. I'd also like to thank my supervisor, Nick Hood, Luke Burns, and the rest of the staff at the University of Leeds for their advice, and all my friends and colleagues who are in the audience tonight for their support. As I'm sure you have heard tonight, retailers make decisions that deeply affect communities. My dissertation, which examines bank closures and their impacts, is therefore particularly relevant. I first started researching bank locations thanks to excellent open data from Geolytics, so a special thanks to Becca and Lou for their work on this. Unfortunately, when researching bank locations, you quickly turn to researching closures. Many studies before mine have analysed the variables behind bank closures, which ultimately they have concluded to be urban or rural settings, socioeconomic status, worker density, and network size. Yet while these variables remain constant, their effects vary. Some studies find urban areas are more impacted, while others highlight rural areas as points of concern. This discrepancy often comes down to differences in defining impact and also in location planning strategy variation across time. This variation led me to try my own approach, especially since the new census had just been released for England. So, equipped with past research, this new census data, and my trusted Geolytics data, I dived in and started my analysis. But then a study was published mid-research which used the most relevant variables, a robust methodology, and up-to-date data. And it was also authored by my dis tutor Nick and also Stephen Clark, amongst others. This meant I had to take a new angle. To find inspiration, I looked beyond academic papers and noticed every major bank lists reasons for each branch closure on its website, like you can see here in these PDFs. They often cite the shift to online banking as a major factor, as highlighted here. So if digital banking is influencing branch closures, it seemed logical to incorporate it into my model. So I looked out, and after some digging, I found only one relevant paper in the UK, which was by Andres Naya et al., which was in 2019, and it explored access to financial services for both physical and digital channels. Although this was not directly relevant to closure modelling, it introduced me to the Internet User Classification, which I'll refer to as the IUC, a dataset that categorises people's internet use at LSOA level. And using such a behaviour-based dataset like the IUC felt really important, since 97% of UK homes now have access to superfast broadband, so infrastructure-based datasets no longer felt appropriate. Onto my methodology. So I integrated the IUC with a model built around traditional closure variables. The model choice was straightforward. If I'm just trying to predict whether a bank was closed in 2024 when it was open in 2015, a binary regression model would do the job. So I took a stepwise approach in doing this, and I categorized my variables into spatial, demographic, bank characteristics, and finally IUC categories. I like to imagine this as a pot of soup due to my love of cooking, with all the variables listed as ingredients. Firstly, I had to remove the most similar ingredients or variables to avoid model instability and multi-collinearity. Then I added my base ingredients, my spatial variables, my backbone, and this gave me a model accuracy of 58.5%, highlighting some explanatory power. However, adding demographics brought it up to 62.2%, and bank characteristics, thirdly, boosted it to 71.9%. This was mainly due to the model recognising banks that had ceased trading completely. After adding all these ingredients, there was just too many. I needed to refine the model, or boil it down. So I refined this using something that's known as backward stepwise regression. It essentially involves running something in R, which calculates the variables that are actually making a difference to the model. It removed 10 variables while only reducing model accuracy by 0.1%, and it also improved model fit. So now we have an accurate and clean model. I want to see the IUC can improve on this. So I include the IUC in the final model, and it actually does. It increases the model accuracy by 0.3%, and enhances model fit. And I know a 0.3% improvement might seem minor, but that isn't what I want you to take away from this. There is a critical takeaway, and that is if you look at the coefficient direction of the IUC variable, it is actually positive. This suggests that as the IUC scores increase, indicating areas where the internet is used less frequently and confidently, the likelihood of bank closure also increases. This we'll come on to discuss later. It is also important to mention that for the rest of the variables, I found results quite strongly in line with that of Stephen Clark's 2023 paper, so I will not go into further detail on these on this occasion. This is mainly because I want to finish the results section with 3 key points from my dissertation, and that is that people adapt to online banking post-closure. This is a proven fact. The Financial Conduct Authority also warns that those less willing or able to switch are at risk of financial exclusion, or a financial black hole, as they put it. Yet banks have closed branches at a higher rate in areas where these vulnerable people are concentrated. So, on to my discussion, and what does this mean? So, now we must ask ourselves, as location planners and policymakers, how we've created a system that puts individuals at risk of financial exclusion. And whilst I recognise that some network rationalisation must take place in 2024 amongst falling transaction numbers, it is vital that we mitigate the effects of this. And we must ask ourselves, are the considerations we are making at the minute insufficient? So most closure explanations highlight 3 points: a falling transaction number, high online access amongst customers, and sometimes a nod to the number of in-branch only customers who will lose access entirely. But my research suggests that simply having access to an app doesn't mean individuals have the digital literacy to manage complex financial tasks online, for example switching accounts to get a better rate. In short, I'd like to emphasise that there's a lost group of people left out by bank branch closure analysis. I'm passionate about the IUC's potential to reveal this group, though I believe other data like the percentage of online-only users could also be useful in understanding closure impacts. Finally, these are my contact details. If anyone would like to contact me on email or LinkedIn to discuss this further, I would love that. Feel free. And I would just like to thank you all once again for listening.